There are young professionals who've never heard of a nonprofit, let alone philanthropy or giving back, or what do you mean you need help with where your next meal? That should just be something everyone has. And then to find out it's not and wonder, okay, how can we fix this basic human need?
This is Hourglass, the podcast for United Way of King County in Seattle. Coming up, a conversation about Emerging Leaders 365, a United Way of King County sponsored group of more than 10,000 young adults who are passionate about engaging in a year of impact to support their neighbors. Emerging Leaders support local charities and small businesses, volunteer at nonprofit organizations, and engage in United Way's Happy Hour and Hello series, which allows them to network with fellow professionals over refreshments while learning about United Way's work. The next Happy Hour and Hellos event is scheduled for October 14th at Nordstrom Southcenter. Hourglass recently sat down with emerging leader Auriella Varley and United Way Associate Director of Marketing Taylor Roberson to discuss the impact of emerging leaders and the upcoming Happy Hour and Hellos. We'll also discuss a United Way Conversations for Change event this month with bestselling author Timothy Snyder and a local volunteer opportunity. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for tuning in. Young professionals in King County are making a difference in our community. They make blankets for local charities. They patronize small businesses. They stage fundraisers that generate thousands of dollars to fight hunger and prevent homelessness. And they give generously to help families avoid eviction. They're doing that and more as part of Emerging Leaders 365, a group launched by United Way of King County that invites young adults to commit giving to $1 a day or $365 a year, then come together with like-minded residents at issue-focused events. Emerging Leaders log 2,700 volunteer hours annually while serving at more than 100 events. In 2022 alone, the group provided 6,000 families with culturally appropriate meals each week. They helped 7,000 households avoid eviction and served 561,218 meals to children in our community. They also engage in United Way's Happy Hour and Hello series, which allows them to network with fellow professionals over refreshments while learning about United Way's work. The next Happy Hour and Hellos event is slated for Nordstrom Southcenter on October 14th at 6 p.m. Previous Happy Hour and Hellos were held at venues such as Seattle Mariners games, Seattle Skyview Observatory, and the Alaska Airlines Hub corporate office in SeaTac. Hourglass recently sat down with emerging leader Auriella Varley and United Way Associate Director of Marketing Taylor Roberson to discuss the impact of emerging leaders in our upcoming Happy Hour and Hellos. We begin our conversation with Auriella, who spoke about the first time she heard about emerging leaders and the group's impact.
I think I first heard about emerging leaders probably sometime during the pandemic when I was locked in my, house. And, I think you all had some virtual events that I was interested in, just learning more about getting involved in the community. It was a little bit different at that time. But yeah, I think I attended a couple of virtual events just to learn more. So
what was your impression?
My impression, I was excited that it was, oriented towards folks like myself, young professionals in the Seattle area. I'd been involved in similar organizations when I lived back in Chicago. So yeah, it seemed like a really energized group and yeah.
And so what were some of the things that as you said, from your age group that really stands out in terms of someone trying to garner and keep interest?
Mm-hmm.
What was it about emerging leaders that did that? And what are some of the typical things that you say, if you want to get us involved, this is what we need?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was, kind of multifaceted, that it wasn't just oriented towards one part of giving back to the community. So historically, I think I've seen things where, you're just involved in volunteerism, kind of boots on the ground. Other times it's just, philanthropy and giving and fundraising. And then other times, more just like connecting events. So I feel like the fact that emerging leaders, you get to do all of these things through, one organization and one group was really motivating, and just that like diversity of things to be able to do.
Okay.
Can you remind me of the second part of the question?
Yeah. So what is it about with your age group that people need to know and understand? This is what really draws us out. This is what keeps us inspired and keeps us going.
Yeah, I think like for this age group in particular, it's definitely like the community building component. I think like myself, I'm a transplant to Seattle, and I think meeting people with similar interests and getting involved and giving back to our community were all just really important things to me, and probably what kept me coming back, aside from all the other great things. So.
And so I understand you've done some garage sale fundraisers. Talk about those. What were those like?
Yeah. So, a few years back, I guess when we were doing our peer-to-peer fundraising, even though I've done more traditional fundraising, just reaching out to my networks, which has been successful, I wanted to try something a little bit different that combined, my desire to fundraise for United Way with like sustainability and sharing different things with the community. So I think done 2 garage sales now where like I collect things from friends and family as well as my own things, sell them, or rather ask folks to give donation for items. So, whatever folks could afford for that item and donate, I was happy with. So yeah, and it was also just like a fun event, having different people come out. And yeah.
What was the most unique item that you gave away?
Most unique item. I'm trying to think. I feel like, with a lot of us, we all probably just have too many things in general. But I think we had some like fun art pieces, like original art pieces. And I actually have a friend who makes journals from old books.
Oh, wow.
And she donated a bunch of those to the garage sale. And yeah, those were super popular and super fun. So. Yeah.
And so now how has it changed from the pandemic in terms of giving?
Yeah, I mean, I think in getting involved, obviously, we're able to be in person more, which, just helps with like that motivation and community building and that sort of thing. But I feel like on the other side, when it comes to the importance of these kinds of organizations, like, like United Way and emerging leaders, they've just become more important since the pandemic because the cost of living has just continued to rise since then. So,
right. And so now, when you go out and you talk to people about emerging leaders, kind of compare and contrast what you learned when you first got involved in it, what do you say to people?
Well, I feel like emerging leaders has grown a lot, even in the time that I've been involved, because I think it was a newer thing back in 2020. I mean, maybe not new, but maybe it was going through some changes. I feel like the team is a lot more organized and like able to go to lots of like different kinds of organizations within the community and can like expose you to all different kinds of nonprofits, which is one of the things that inspired me to come to the United Way. You're not just like getting involved with one kind of organization. And we've just like had a really like variety of events that allow us to connect in different ways.
So now if someone's listening to this podcast and they're saying, hey, this sounds interesting, what would your call to action to them be? What should they do if they want to get involved? Yeah,
I mean, I guess first get on the newsletter to make sure you're up to date on all the good events that we have going on. Follow us on Instagram. A lot of stuff going on there as well. And just like showing up to a happy hour and hellos or a volunteer event if that's more your speed. But yeah, I think the happy hour and hellos as well are a good way to like get information about emerging leaders in United Way, what they're working on, and also do maybe like some light networking, meeting different folks in the community. So yeah, I guess those are the 3 things.
Awesome. And so kind of segueing to you, Taylor, talk about our happy hour and hellos, what those entail, and just really the magnitude and popularity around them.
Yeah, Happy Hour Hellos are Emerging Leaders 365 young professional networking events. And networking can be scary or cold sometimes, but we really work hard to have a warm environment where it's lighthearted, it's easy flowing. You literally just show up, grab a drink, and people start talking to you. Especially in Seattle, with the Seattle Freeze, it's just a room where there's like-minded people. There's people who want to give back to community, people who care about what's going on around them in the world. And then you just strike up a conversation, as easy as it sounds, like from, hey, I like your shoes or what have you. Seriously. And then it's a real warm room. Like you could have known everyone in the room for at least a year. And that's kind of the vibe that we've been able to capture with Happy Hour Hellos. And then as you're networking, enjoying your drinks and appetizers, just come with the ticket. We'll usually come on the mic for 15 minutes, not too long, because, attention span is a real thing, especially at young professionals. But we'll come on and we'll say hi. Here's something the community, United Way is really working on, feeding our community. We're doing home grocery delivery. Here's how you can get involved. If you get involved tonight, you can maybe enter a drawing or a door prize. And what it does is it takes you from maybe wanting to get involved or not knowing much about United Way and what's happening to, okay, that was fun. And I think I can be a part of this, And you can, to Ari's point, you can pick your own journey, whether that's volunteering or giving or finding us a bigger event.
Now, Taylor, you've been really able to tap into that group in the greater Seattle, King County community pretty consistently, the emerging leaders. When you started doing this, is there anything where you said, prior to doing this, I thought blank? What would that blank be when you really started going after emerging leaders and trying to really get them to give to United Way, be interested in United Way? What have you learned?
Yeah, I think prior to this, I thought maybe everyone knows a little bit about volunteering. Maybe everyone knows that we're born in different categories in the world. Maybe someone needs a little bit more help with food and someone needs a little bit more help finding a job. And I think as I started getting settled in, I learned that the gaps of where we are in our lives are quite vast. And there are young professionals who've never heard of a nonprofit, let alone philanthropy or giving back or what do you mean you need help with where your next meal is coming from? That should just be something everyone has. And then to find out it's not and wonder, okay, how can we fix this basic human need of a problem? And then approaching it to meet people where they are, taking that knowledge and saying, okay, we're all coming at this from different angles. You're welcome to come out. We want to talk to you and just meet you where you are. Have a good time and you get something out of it because we tend to break the Seattle Freeze, as I mentioned before.
Lastly, given the climate that we're in, people talk about just giving, how sometimes it can be challenging. We've been able to tap into something pretty consistently. For the future, what gives you hope?
What gives me hope is this conversation that you're listening to, where you hear other people's heart and their desires and what they're seeing. Even though we may be devastated at times or find it hard to figure out our next step, just knowing that we're not alone. We could unite, come together, and make something happen. And, actually having that situation unfold is something to work towards,
Perfect. Taylor and Ari, thank you so much, both of you, for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
For more information about our Emerging Leaders group, log on to our website at uwkc.org/emerging-leaders-365. Join us at Benaroya Hall on October 26th at 7:30 p.m. for our Conversations for Change event with historian and best-selling author Timothy Snyder. Conversations for Change is an ongoing series that features discussions from experts and scholars on issues impacting our community. Snyder is a former professor of history and global affairs at Yale University and a current professor at the University of Toronto's Munk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy. A renowned historian on World Wars I and II, communism, and the Holocaust, Snyder is the author of On Tyranny, which has spent more than 140 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. United Way is co-sponsoring the event with Seattle Arts and Lectures. For more information, log on to uwkc.org/events. Looking for a volunteer event? Join us on October 11th at El Centro de la Raza in Seattle to craft flowers and organize auction items for El Centro's annual Building the Beloved Community Gala. Take part in an exciting event that raises funds for 43 programs and services that benefit more than 20,000 individuals and families across our region. El Centro needs volunteers at 10 a.m. on October the 11th in Seattle's Convention Center in preparation for the event that will take place at the Convention Center later at 5 p.m. For more information, log on to uwkc.org/events. At United Way of King County, we are working side by side with communities to build an equitable future for everyone. Hourglass United Way is a podcast that highlights how we and our partners spend time making a difference in our communities. Our work is made possible by the generous donations from people like you. Please send comments and suggestions about our podcast to hourglassunitedway@gmail.com. To learn more about our work or to support United Way, log on to uwkc.org. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for listening. Until next time.